Okay, that's good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our semi-regular show, my semi-regular show, Speaking Moistly. And with me today is Peyman. Peyman, thank you for joining me today. Crazy stuff going on. We're at the beginning of October, and I can't believe how quickly 2025 has flown by. We've had a whole lot of we've just had a whole lot of nothing happen over 2025, I think. And now Carney is in Washington talking with Donald Trump. And you and I were chatting briefly in the green room saying, and you were telling your prediction and I was telling my prediction of what do you think today is going to bring. I'll start just because I'm talking right now. I said, I don't think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be terrible. I think the USA is going to notify Canada that the USMCA is not something that they're interested in continuing, and it may be done as early as 26. And either you can become the 51st state or you are going to have economic destruction. Nobody alive has encountered the kind of economic destruction you will have if you don't become the 51st state. Have a good day, Mr. Carney. That's what I think he's going to do. So what do you think? Welcome, and thanks for coming today, Peyman. What do you think?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. What I think is going to, I'm starting to get a lot more conspiratorial. I think this goes back to the '60s. So they got rid of JFK, we got rid of Diefenbaker, and everything's been getting worse and worse and worse. And then in the U.S., they managed to lead a populist sort of movement through Trump, and they're starting to claw back a lot of their institutions. They already got rid of USAID. They got National Guard troops on the ground. They're saying to Antifa, like, no, we're not going to let a quasi-terrorist organization run an entire city. And then in the middle of that, you have Canada, which is this barren wasteland, which England and Europe are using to fight this proxy war that they have been fighting for a couple hundred years. But it seems like they're ramping up. Now, I don't see why America would want Canada to be a 51st state. We're insanely left of center. There's socialist tendencies here. I agree with you. I think they might say, let's get rid of USMCA. But after what happened last time when he joked about 51st state and all the liberals went elbows up.
I don't think he's joking.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope he's not joking, because what other avenues do we have to save our country except Donald Trump?
Yeah, no, we don't. So I just want to be clear about something. You said that Canada is being used as a proxy state to war against the United States by Europe and other interests. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's true. And I think that we got screwed by Europe. Europe was like, we are not going to economically do anything that Donald Trump wants. We're not going to get into a trade agreement with him. We're not going to do anything. And then Mark Carney was on that call, right? And he was like, or on that text message group. And he was like, okay, we're not going to do anything. And then he went first and he was like, we're not doing anything. And then Europe came in and had that agreement. They were like, okay, we're going to do this agreement. And I reported on my show. I was like, are you kidding me? We got screwed like 2 days ago. We were just saying we're not going to economically do anything with these guys. So I think that they're trying to isolate the United States. I think that I think that that's exactly right. I think they are trying to economically isolate the United States. But right now, Canada doesn't have the clout or the influence to do that by ourselves. And nobody else is actually doing that. They say that they're going to do that, but they don't actually do any of that. So we're in a situation where we're the only ones who are trying to economically poke the United States in the eye. And I think that that's folly. I think that that's a bad strategy. You know what I mean? Like, and we're going to suffer consequences for that bad strategy.
Yeah, but go ahead. You said that they got together and they decided, send Mark Carney. I think they were on a phone call. They're like, how are we going to deal with Trump? They're like, what about our guy in London City? And they're like, yeah, let's send him in.
Yep.
So they parachute Mark Carney here, and the people, the Canadians, they're not politically literate. They're not politically engaged. They have no idea what's going on.
But yeah. The reason Canadians are not politically literate is because we have been told, don't talk about this stuff. It's very, very bad. Don't talk to your uncles about this stuff at the Christmas dinner table or the Thanksgiving dinner table. Don't talk to family members who think men are men and women are men or women, and you can't just change whenever you want to. Like things like that. The rhetoric has been, do not talk about this stuff. Talk about television shows. Talk about anything, but don't talk about how terrible our politicians have been, or even really like my show is nothing special. I just talk about the structure of things, and they don't like my show because I break it down in a simple way. And I also say nobody who's running a country on behalf of its own people would do any of the policies that our government is currently running, period.
I was talking to this gentleman yesterday, and he said a man's vanity, a man's weakness is his vanity, and Canadians, our weakness is that we're too nice. That's kind of our vanity. So
Maybe.
that's
Yeah.
a problem. It is, but I think it's worse than that. I think it's ever since the British took over French possessions in 1763.
Mm-hmm.
The Catholic Church has been crushing the French. And then the United Empire Loyalists came up and they started crushing the English-speaking population. So we've had this culture of deference to authority.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the core of our issues.
I agree there to a degree, but at some point people have to stand up and say, like, the policies that I equated it to driving your car. Like, you want to go to a place and you could drive your car on the road, but you have to go up and around, because you're on the road, or you could drive directly across a field and that'll be faster, right? So our policies make no sense the same way somebody who's driving on a road and could drive up the road and across instead decides to drive across the field. Nobody in the car tells them to stop, or they say half-heartedly, we should probably not do this. But the person in the driver's seat just does it anyway. And then we drive across this field and the car gets destroyed. The car gets stuck. We can't do anything. We're completely screwed. And it's 100% our fault. And now the car is stuck in a farmer's field and we have to walk and get the farmer. Like, there are consequences we can't escape. You know what I'm saying? We could have done this in a way that is intelligent. We could have driven on the effing road. Instead, we allowed our politicians to be complete maniacs and idiots and do something that is completely against everybody in the car, to continue the analogy. And so, like, maybe it's our deference to authority. I don't know. I think that there's shenanigans going on. Like, usual checks and balances, like elections, are rigged. Like, after watching the 2020 election, I can't believe and I don't believe. After watching the 2024 BC election, I can't believe and don't believe that our elections aren't rigged. I think that our elections are rigged across the board. They're rigged by Dominion and Smartmatic and a whole bunch of other things. And there's a whole bunch of proof coming out of Maricopa County and indeed the Trump administration itself. But again, nobody's doing a damn thing about it because all of these people, that enshrines their power. So they're going to ignore this for 5 years until Trump's gone. And my big thing is, what happens after Trump? You get Biden again, right?
Yeah.
And there's not anybody, not Vance, not Marco Rubio, there isn't anybody on the horizon, not one, who looks anything like Trump. And I don't even necessarily believe wholeheartedly that Trump is the solution. He's a damn far sight better than Kamala Harris would be. He's a damn far sight better than a lot of the other options would be. But I don't know that he's somebody who's actually gonna fix anything in a long-term sense, because I don't know that he has the clout or power. Now, he's very powerful, don't get me wrong, but is the whole apparatus of the United States behind him? Obviously not. Look at Antifa. He's tried to declassify things. He's tried to stop things, as you said, the complete domestic terrorist organization that's been rolled out in the United States. He's trying to dismantle that. And he's running into opposition. The Chicago mayor, the governor of California, all sorts of people saying, this man is a tyrant. Let the Antifa people be criminals. And I've heard other people say, oh, it's very concerning what Trump's doing. And I don't see it. But these people are saying, oh, yeah, it's an attack on freedom. It's not an attack on freedom when those people are effing domestic terrorists.
Yeah. I guess the one good thing he did early on was he attacked USAID, which it gave him a lot of runway.
Sure.
Do you compare his current term with the first term? And like, the media was attacking him relentlessly. Now, two beautiful things happened. One, Stephen Colbert lost his show.
Yeah.
Two, momentarily, Jimmy Kimmel lost his show.
Yep.
So they're feeling the squeeze.
But Colbert's still on. Go ahead. Sorry. Colbert's still on, but carry on with your point.
Colbert's still on? I thought he lost it.
He's on until some date in the future. I think what they're trying to do is play it like, oh, Colbert's so loved, and like people are coming out to say that they love him, just like the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I think they're going to try and I think it's a publicity stunt.
Okay. Yeah, throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, pretty much. And to attack Trump, right? And it's not even like, I remember Colbert when he was funny. And I loved Colbert when he was funny. Like 2008, I thought he was, some of the satire he was pulling to hold the United States government to account. Some of the satire he did was absolutely incredible, and it was hilarious. And then he became this this full-blown, unapologetic shill. It's insane. It's insane. I don't even understand how you can make that. It would be like me going full-blown elbows up, having like a Mark Carney hat on, and being like, this guy knows what he's doing, guy. Like, obviously not, right? But Colbert went there, and I can't possibly see it. I mean, stacks of money maybe, but even then, I'd want my soul intact.
I want to go back to what you said about the 2020 election. They stole that election. We know that now. There was that. What was it, the 8 million?
I knew it then.
Well, I did, but you were fringe at the time when we said it. Now everyone knows it, because if you don't hear the Democrats, you don't hear a peep about how it was the safest, most secure election.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened, and then the American people, like, they came out and they started being proactive. They started actually doing something. So Mike Lindell had that whole symposium. Mm-hmm. People started the precinct strategy. A whole sort of independent media apparatus sprung up overnight in the
Turning
US.
Point USA. Yep.
Yeah, Turning Point USA took off. Benny Johnson, whatever you think of these people, they got their hands dirty, right?
Yep.
And I just figured, it just happened. Like, I just figured it's something that just happens, like the Big Bang, right? Or maybe there was money.
It's money,
but it didn't happen in Canada, right? Like, nobody knows about the BC elections, the 200,000.
It's the same reason. It's the same reason. I think that anybody who wants to talk about that kind of stuff, anybody who wants to talk about, like, I talk about all that stuff, and I call it suspicious eyebrows. Like, this is the real story, and I don't effing well believe it, because there's too many things that fly in the face of it. But Turning Point USA didn't take off. They tried to do chapters in Canada initially, but it didn't take off, and not because there wasn't support, but because it was disrupted. It was undermined from underneath. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't actually get on solid ground to build. The administration would pull the support or the money or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, and you get screwed. And that's I feel very, very strongly that we are being managed into, like, the population is being managed into us direct. It's like sheepdogs. We're being managed and directed like sheepdogs.
Are you saying? I'm trying to get in your headspace. Are you saying that in Canada the government controls the money more than in the U.S.?
I'm saying that in the United States, free speech is more prominent and more protected. So something like Turning Point USA would have an entryway into a university, right? Like, there would be students who would be genuinely trying to get things started. There would be administrators maybe who were sympathetic to this idea and more aligned with or more open to the idea of free speech, even for people whose point of view you maybe disagree with, right? And so they had a way to get into the infrastructure of the universities and colleges. Whereas in Canada, the university and colleges are used as a stopgap for people who are politicians who need to build their base. So, like, Nenchi's a good example of this. He was the mayor of Calgary. Then he went, and as soon as he quit, he went into a position at the university. And I predicted this on my show when he left the mayorship. I said he is going to go work at a university in Alberta and then take over the leadership of the NDP. He's going to wait until Notley goes at the university, and while he's at the university, he has full access and a paycheck, full access to a whole bunch of students who are growing up and becoming adults who vote, right? So you have access to people who are going to vote in the future. You have a way to build your base. You do it for 3 years, and then you leave your university position, all amicable, because all of that money is, like, there's government money going into the university, right? And she's a big get. So the university's happy to get him. Everybody's happy that he's getting paid, and then boom, he walks right out and into an NDP leadership position. This happens across the country at every level of politics. And if you don't know that, not you personally, but like the viewership doesn't know that, should be aware of that, because that's happening in real time right now. Honestly, follow where people go, like city councilors, university professor employment, or some kind of university employment, or city councilor to liberal representative in the area, to university, to leadership. They do it, and it's sneaky as all get out. So Canada has less of a worry at stifling speech, whereas in the United States, they've got the First and Second Amendment, so they worry about that a little bit more. It's more legally protected, whereas here, they can do it and then claim ignorance or whatever. Oh, we didn't think that was good in a democratic society, so we stopped it. And people would say, they're right.
Maybe you answered this, and I just didn't pick up on it. But sorry. How is it the 1A, First Amendment in the U.S. prevents this scheme from happening there?
Because people are militant about it in the United States. 1A, and if 1A fails, 2A, right? First Amendment, free speech, and if the First Amendment fails, Second Amendment, which is your weapons, your guns.
This is where I was going with this. Like, I think in the U.S., because they were born out of revolution, they have a can-do attitude which is another way of saying they understand that it's not the responsibility of government to do these things. The leadership won't do it. Whereas in Canada, I said 1763, we were just born out of this administrative bureaucracy that was created. And the culture here is leadership knows best. Let the leadership handle it. This is why we have elections. We shouldn't do anything. And if you do, you're a psychopath like him in this garden.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree with that to a degree. There's been push and pull in Canada, and I think people on the ground have an idea that the government works for us. But maybe it's in the context that you're saying, that the government works for us and they know best and they wouldn't hurt us. So just close your eyes and do everything they say. And that's insane. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I even if I believed that the person at one time had my best interest at heart, I still wouldn't be able to keep my nose out of it. I'd be like, listen, are you sure that it doesn't need to come out of the oven now? Like, I'm double checking, I know, but it smells like it's done. Like, everything I can see in the country of Canada right now says we are not happy with what's going on. People want change. People want difference. People want to do something other than what we're doing. And the unfortunate part is we can't get together enough to decide what that is appropriately. And we're being told by leadership what we need to do is crack down on the alt-right or the far right, or the far right is the real problem here. And that's not true, obviously. But we're in a situation where it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe and what the government is pushing.
Have you noticed that the level of corruption within government is now criminal? Like, this is a criminal cartel.
Yes.
Do you know the story of Jeff Colvin in Chestermere, Alberta?
No, nope, not off the top of my head.
I've interviewed him twice. I can send him your way. Long story short, he discovered fraud between developers. They're stealing like $6 million.
Is he the mayor?
Yes.
Okay. I do know about this. Yeah, I reported. I think it was your interview that I reported on, and I was like, man, I gotta read into this a little bit more. The name didn't jump out at me, but
no, but like what happened is he uncovers fraud. He gives it to the RCMP. The RCMP is like, we're not going to investigate. So he complains to the province.
Yeah.
And the RCMP tries to throw him in jail on some trumped up charges of surveillance. Like, he's got surveillance listening devices across the city, like an IP camera in a server room.
Okay.
And they're saying that he's surveilling civilians. They tried to throw him in jail. The AG or the prosecutor in Alberta said, no way.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that the AG in Alberta said no way, because what I'm worried about is, and like a similar thing, somebody saying there's obvious criminality here, or like me saying there's obvious criminality here. Here's a video of somebody talking about the obvious criminality on my show, right? Boop, done. And then somebody shows up and says, how dare you? This was classified, or this is hateful. This is something that obviously you're a hateful guy and you're posting this for a hateful reason, and we're going to take you in. And really, I don't even really have that much faith in the Alberta AG, to be quite honest with you, but the whole justice system in our entire country seems like a joke at this point in time. Like, if I get caught up in the justice system of our country, they could probably just throw me in a room somewhere, throw away the key, and not be accountable to anybody. And I have Coots guys, there's nothing anybody could do. Everybody was like, this is wrong. Nothing anybody could do about it.
Well, the Coots one, that's an exception, right?
It's not, though. It's not. Look at what's happening to Tamara today, Tamara and Chris today, and Pat King. Like, it's not an exception. If they could get to, I think if they could get to me, and not just me, if they could get to people who don't listen to their ideology and throw us in jail for wrong thing, they would absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind they would do it.
What I mean about that is they made an exception because they had to make an example of those boys.
Okay, sure.
If they wanted to come after you or me, they would say that we are a risk. We're a risk to ourselves. And using the Mental Health Act, They would just drug us and throw away the key.
Yes.
Nobody would know, nice and neat and quiet.
Yep. I worked in mental health facilities. So, yeah, you're not wrong there. And so it is, and we don't even have really asylums anymore, not like we used to. Not doing actual good work with people to help them live fulfilled lives. So, yeah, I don't think that our justice system is fit for purpose. I don't think our government is fit for purpose. I don't think that the citizens know. I think the paralysis, the inaction that we see across the country is because people don't know what to do. Because if you, like the mayor that you were just talking about, if you're like, this is wrong and I'm going to do something about it, I'm going to catch these people who are doing wrong things and I'm going to prove it, the RCMP will show up at your door before they show up at your door, before they show up at the criminal's door. And maybe they'll just shoot you. right? Like, and there's been incidents, right? Like there's been incidents all across. Some Toronto police went up to Barrie for no good reason and shot and killed a guy. And there's nobody knows this a few years ago now, but it was like, what happened there? And there's nothing for it. So like, I don't know how bad it's going to have to get. I feel strongly as well that they want to keep us in a band. Like they don't want things to get, down here is like people are starving and, there's no work and like it's a terrible situation down here. And up here is people are realizing that the government doesn't really work for them and they want to replace the government. That's the two upper and lower bands. If they can keep us within this band, then they maintain control. If it gets too bad, they lose control. And if we get too uppity, they lose control. Right? So they want to keep us demoralized enough, but not terribly demoralized, just enough to be busy. They don't want us to understand what's going on. They just want us to keep producing because they steal 60% of our production. That's fundamentally, we're a tax farm and they're the farmers and they take 50% of our production and they don't owe us anything. And again, I often talk about 3 levels. So in Canada, we think so up here is the globalist communists who appoint the second level, which this is the leadership level. This is the Mark Carneys, the Keir Starmers, the ministers, all the MPs, all the MPPs. This is the government, okay? And then this is the citizens. So the citizens think that they have control over the second level. And when things get bad, we replace the second level. However, the people who are down here move into the second level, but only at the permission of the third level. So you can't get to the second level unless the third level says, yeah, okay, this guy can be this guy can be a Keir Starmer or a Mark Carney or a minister or whatever, or a backbencher even. We, the citizens, are not supposed to know about this third level, but the third level is the control. When we mount games, when we play games like democracy, we are not attacking the control level. We are attacking the leadership level. The leadership level's job is to placate the citizens. These guys who are actually in power don't want to be bothered by the concerns of the citizens at the bottom. So they put these guys in place to deal with us guys. And if these guys can't deal with us guys, they get replaced with people the third level approves of, who will do what they're being told to do. Kill 50% of the population, implement COVID, implement digital IDs, whatever it is. Whoever's at the second level will do it because the only people they work for are the globalists at the top. And we do not understand. In our world, we control the government, but we do not. We actually have no control at all. The power sits up here. They control the government. And until we address that, and the truckers actually attacked the third level. The truckers actually attacked the third level because they were in a position. If they said, no, we're not leaving, then you're in a color revolution. Then you're in the same thing that happened in Egypt in 2011 with Mubarak. I think it was Mubarak. And if they say we're not leaving until this government is abolished, that attacks this level because this level is not then appointing the MPs. They lose control of the country. So that scared the shit out of them. And that's why they responded the way they did with the Emergencies Act, because it was an emergency. They were at risk of losing their power. So until we play a game that addresses this power structure, we are going to lose because we play games that attack this power structure and these people are actually in charge of it. So we play games with democracy. It takes us years and years and years. It takes us years to realize we've been screwed. And then we do it all again. And these people are laughing all the way to the bank. That's what's happening. And I wish it wasn't so, but it fucking well is. Excuse my language.
No, I agree with that. I can add a few things.
Yeah, please.
The top, you're talking about the globalists.
Yep.
I think they control the middle layer through the media and the political parties. Like those are the two main tools that they use to completely hoodwink us.
Yep.
And then the middle layer, over the years, I think it's been getting more and more corrupt. It's partly because they're looking up and they're like, well, our leaders are corrupt, like the first layer. So we're going to be corrupt. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it's just the nature of it. The top layer is trying to steal the assets of the bottom layer. And the middle layer is also part of that. Yep. So that example I gave of Jeff Colvin, that conspiracy with the RCMP, well, if you're the top layer and you're trying to steal the assets and you're using the RCMP to do it, eventually the RCMP will also want its cut.
Yep.
And they probably have some formula, like 10% stays with the middle layer, 90% goes to the top.
Yep.
And it's very difficult to break because Canada, I don't think we've had our 1776 moment. And it feels like that's where we're headed right now, where we're trying to wake people up, but people, their elbows are getting in the way.
I think the elbows up thing is a scam too. Like, I don't think people will hear that and go, yes, that is a slogan I want to get behind. Like, it's all ridiculous. If there is revolutionary feelings, if there's an undercurrent of revolutionary feelings, and you would know, or people monitoring for such a thing would know, the Twitter trends, the X trends, the Facebook trends would know, there is a system in place to disrupt that coalescence. Okay. I go back to this. They want to distract us. They don't want us to see a way out. That's the point. And they can, so like, have you seen Conor McGregor and what he's doing in Ireland?
Yeah, loosely. I mean, from a distance.
Same thing, right? And so he's popular. He's rich. He's very Trumpian in a lot of ways. He doesn't mince his words. He's got ideas he wants to implement, so on and so forth. They're using the apparatus of the state to prevent him from being on the ballot. And I don't know the status right now. I'd seen last week a couple of people have been removed from the ballot, but I haven't seen Conor McGregor's name specifically. But all of the people who are trying to stop this are being purposely kept apart. There's no cohesion, and there's no, when it starts to bubble,
Bro, they're killing candidates. Let's just start there.
Yeah. I mean,
how many AFD have been stabbed? Didn't they go after Fico? The Prime Minister of Japan got assassinated.
Yes. Trump almost got assassinated.
There's a couple on the left as well, populist leftists in Europe that got attacked.
Romania just removed, removed a presidential Bolsonaro. But that's Brazil.
Bolsonaro was stabbed. In Germany, they're trying to pass a Supreme Court justice so that they can force a ruling to say the AFD is not a political party. They're trying to delegitimize the AFD.
Yep. Yeah.
Didn't 8 of them die?
Yes. 7.
AFD.
Yeah, maybe it was 8. Yeah, one of them was 80. One of them was in their 80s, and it was attributed to a heart attack. And I was like, okay, that's maybe just coincidental. I don't know about that one, but also maybe not. Like, a heart attack gun is a real thing that was announced declassified in the 60s, right? So like, who knows? I'm not going to just say because they're old that they weren't murdered, but it's very, very concerning. But the murder is what did Andrew Tate? And I'm not saying one way or the other if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but he said that they will warn you, they will jail you, and then if those two things don't work, they'll kill you. And so like they did that to Trump. They warned him, they jailed him, they tried to jail him. They said that paid mortgage that you got was a felony, you SOB, and we're going to put you in jail. And he's like, okay, all right. And then like that didn't work, and then they tried to kill him, and that didn't work either. Now he's on the world stage. But it's if they can't kill you, they'll murder you socially in Canada. They will destroy you. They won't be able, like, I am a nobody. You know what I mean? Like, nobody knows who I am. I've been doing this since 2018. Nobody knows me. And that's fine. I'm okay with having like an under the radar show that the government hates. I'm okay with that. But I think it's interesting. You can't build a social media empire like Joe Rogan did in starting in 2006, 7, 8, when he started doing conversations, and he was just like, I don't know, come watch if you want to watch, if you don't want to watch, F off. You can't build that now because they will disrupt people. Like, I had a video before the 2019 election, it had 10,000 views on it in like less than a day. And the video was making fun of Justin Trudeau. It called him Potato Headed Justin Trudeau. Like, I think the title was like Potato Headed Justin Trudeau, something. It was a very satisfying title. And I couldn't believe it hit 5,000. And then like the next day when I did my next show, it was at 10,000. I was like, holy shit, I've hit the big time, baby, right? And then after that, never again. And I don't even think that video is on my list anymore. But after that, never again. They disrupt you.
Let me stop you right there. The gentleman I talked to yesterday, he said a similar thing. He said in 2021, the election, he would put out posts about politics, and he would get millions of views per week, like 10 million views.
Yep.
And then somebody figured it out, and he said they put a stop to it. And I feel like they've done that with me too. I'm a nobody. Yeah, I can't break like 300 impressions on my posts.
No, that's my buddy. 300 is me too. So on X, when I post, listen, how shows work, and I know you know this, but I'm explaining for the audience. if 100 people watch my show in a day and reliably, like for a week, say Monday to Friday, I get 100 people watching my show. Next week, it's going to be 115 or 120 because somebody of those 100 is going to tell somebody about it. But if like you have a week where it's like 100, 92, 88, 87, you know what I mean? Like you see a downing trend, maybe you're not so good at it. But if every day is 100, probably it's going to grow. Every day I get 300 impressions and then gone. They just shut it off, right? And anything above 300 is if shares happen or like things they can't control. But if it gets too big, they trim it down. So 300 is my number as well, or it was for a long time on X. They won't let me break 1,000 views on YouTube. Meanwhile, there are other people who do a show that's very similar to mine that get tens of thousands of views, right? Like the Jess, what's her name? The girl, Mario. There's all sorts of people who are doing a very similar style show, lots and lots of views, but I refuse to bend the knee and I refuse to understand something the way they want me to understand something, which I'm sure that you do the same thing. So I'm not playing their game.
Yeah, I think if you go through my content, and I'm not really a polarizing person, but I bring people on and I let them talk. So they talk about the vaccine, they talk about COVID, Rockefeller, Rothschild, usury. I talk about all the things you're not supposed to, and I think I'm basically shooting myself in the foot.
Well, but I feel strongly, like, okay, if you go to a show and they're talking about bullshit, right? They're talking about their favorite color, or they're talking about, their favorite taste. Is vanilla better than chocolate? You're like, I'm not listening to, I'm not going to waste my time and listen to this nonsense, right? Whereas if you find a show that is, I'll use myself as an example. In 2007, 8, 9, I've been a politics junkie for my entire life. I love politics. And in 2007, The Daily Show and The Colbert Report, I would download them every night and I would encode them and I would put them on my phone. It wasn't even a phone. It was an iPhone. I was an iPhone video back then. Okay. iPhone video. I got it for Christmas in like 2007. And so I'd put Colbert and Stewart on my phone for my drive to work. And so I'd listen to them, and that show interested me. It felt fast. Like it wasn't 30 minutes of a show. It was like 5 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are talking hilariously about all the things I care about, right? A similar 20-minute show talking about chocolate or vanilla, give me your hottest take. That's not going to fucking well do it. And so people are not interested in the shows that they're being forced to watch because it's bullshit. It's manufactured nonsense. And I feel like that after the stay was gotten for the ostriches, I feel like it's a bit manufactured. It's a distraction, and they want it to keep being a distraction. But they distract us with bullshit stories that sound like they're important, but they're not really important. I try and actually find, and I'm sure you do too, if you're talking about usury and Rothschilds and vaccines, I try and find the important core and say, here's what's happening in Canada. Here's what they want us to look at. And here's what we really should be looking at, because this is going to destroy our country. Right. And so, yeah, they do not want people who are thinking critically about what we're being told, because what we're being told is obviously bullshit, like at many levels, many levels. So I don't know. Again, I wish it wasn't so, but I can see it so clearly. And I refused to do vanilla versus chocolate show. I'm not gonna play their game. Oh, Pierre Poilievre's doing this today. I don't care.
Yeah, there's like 1 million people out there that are doing that, and I'm sure they're very good at it.
I don't know. They're good at repeating the bullshit that we're being told without critically thinking about the bullshit. Like, I don't even think I could do it with a straight face, right? Like, I'd be like, listen, there's a whole, like, these ostriches, it's been 11 months. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't been tested. Oh, they're very sick. They're very sick. Swine flu, avian flu. Oh no, right? Like bullshit. And then they're saying that avian flu is jumping from birds to cows. Oh no, we've got this dairy cow and it's got bird flu. And I was like, no, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't.
They haven't said the birds have AIDS.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't be surprised, because AIDS has branding behind it. Doesn't matter the reality. People know what that is, right? And so people would be like, "Oh, I know that word. That's bad." And so you're not wrong, because the branding is strong.
Sexual ostriches, they're high risk lifestyle. They're contracting AIDS.
Yeah, man, it's a crazy world, and I wish that I saw a pathway out. Like, I wish that I saw, like Trump in 2016, 2015. I mean, I lost my whole friend group because I was saying basically you can't have open borders and free healthcare. That's insane. And then Trump happened, and I was like, this guy seems to be talking sense, like just basic common sense. And then people not get weaponized, but get told so much bullshit. Instead of thinking critically, they're like, you like Trump, or you think we should have closed borders? It's like, yeah, done. And that's part and parcel of the attack on critical thinking.
I lost a lot of friends too during COVID, and somebody told me, they said, stop attacking your neighbors. Like, they've just been curated and collated by the news. They're victims, really. So
I agree with that.
I just don't even talk to them about it. They ask me what's going on in politics. I'm like, I don't know. Why would you ask me? I don't follow politics.
See, when people ask me, I get a glint in my eye that I don't know makes them fearful or what, but it's like, oh, what have I got myself into here? Like, hold on, how deep do you want me to go? Because it's bad.
I brought the fire hydrant, yeah.
And you got to be careful because they'll shut off. Like, if somebody does genuinely ask, I try and be gentle with them. Like, try and onboard them slow and kind of like humorously, like, well, is every neighborhood in your city turning to 40 kilometers an hour to drive everywhere? 30 kilometers an hour? Yeah.
I was actually I don't know if that's a rhetorical question, but I was with my dad yesterday and he was complaining about it. It's just large stretches of 30 kilometers an hour.
Yeah. On a main, so this is actually how I do onboard people. So I have people who are more normies, and I was able to chat with them about the automatic cameras, like the speed cameras. And that was like an integral part of the conversation, because like 40 kilometers an hour when flashing, right? The school is in, the buses are here, 40 kilometers an hour. You can't go more than 40 anyway. There's so many things happening. But now that happened for about a year, like the 40 kilometers flashing and all the rest, about a year. And now they took away the when flashing, and it's just 40 kilometers an hour all the time on Victoria Road. And I'm like, nope. And they've also created a situation in Guelph where 4-lane roads have been changed to bike lane, northbound lane, suicide lane, southbound lane, bike lane. So instead of 4 lanes of traffic, you've got 2 lanes of traffic, bike lanes on either side, which aren't used at all because it's a highway. It's Highway 7. It's unbelievable. It goes to Kitchener, for crying out loud. And so they've got this all, and they've got speed readers. So if you drive up to it faster than 50 kilometers an hour, it says too fast, too fast, too fast. And I'm like, I try and trigger them. But yeah, that was the conversation I had with some people. And I said, listen, like, I think that it's disingenuous for leadership. What leadership is supposed to do is to notice what you're doing and like not make it safe, but codify that. Like, everybody's driving around. Everybody's going to drive on the right, going this way, and the left going this way. 50 kilometers an hour seems like a pretty good thing. That's fine. And the roads were built for that. And now they're saying, listen, for your safety, comrade, you have to travel 30 kilometers an hour on these roads. I was down between Elora and Fergus. There's a line, the first line, I think, between Elora and Fergus. And there's a suburb that's been built on a farmer's field that previously butted up against this line, right? So there's a big suburb there. But when you turn onto this line, it's a rural road to a rural road. To get into the city, you have to make a left. And 40 kilometers an hour. I was like, nope, not happening, buddy. So, and it's there's a trucking place, like a trucking depot where the trucks come in and pick up their load and then they take it out again. And it's right on this lane. So they come out and they go 40 kilometers an hour to the roundabout. I'm like, this is crazy. And it's done. I think it's done to demoralize people. I think it's done to just show how powerful they are. But this is the kind of bad governance. And this is the kind of, we've driven through the farmer's field. The car is stuck. This is all on us. We did this to ourselves, us and our stupid, idiotic government. But at the same time, I feel they don't work for us. They're placed by other people. But we allowed this to happen somehow.
Yeah, the 30-kilometer thing or the bike lane thing, that is a little bit different. They do it through these, what do they call it? The city initiative?
Yeah, it's municipal. Yeah, it's a different
thing.
So
they kind of capture those cities, and you get these leftist councillors. They put them on.
It's terrible in Guelph, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, West Van is bad too. We got sort of a slate of economically right of center candidates in my municipality. The local leftist newspaper started going after them hard. You bought this couch off Craigslist, but there's no receipt. And he's like, it's a $500 couch. The couch is right here. Yeah. But saying, no, you stole funds. You are bullying the CAO, Chief Administrative Officer. So they're trying to get him out, because anytime you get a mayor like Jeff Colvin that comes in and tries to audit the books,
Yep.
they freak out.
Yeah, well, because they're stealing. I feel strongly that people are using the obfuscation or the opacity of government to make it easy for them to wholesale steal everything.
Can I just add something? They're stealing in two ways. One is, you got some BS $100,000 a year party planning position.
Yes.
Yep. The other, they're outright stealing the money. Jeff Colvin said that the money goes out to like an engineering firm or a law firm, and then it disappears.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. Well, and it's the same with the Ukraine. So like that's a microcosm of the same thing that's happening in the macro and the government, and the engineering firm is Ukraine.
Yeah, but I was talking about this the other day with Ukraine. The people have this perception that if there is corruption, there's like a couple of dozen people, everybody steals $1 billion. But they never consider that that's happening in West Vancouver. It's happening in Guelph. It's happening in Chestermere. It's happening in Toronto. It's happening everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, I think it's very, very, like, put a fine point on it. The fact that what's happening in 5 provinces over, like, you're all the way on the West Coast, right? And I'm in central Ontario. Exactly. And I've talked on my kitchen table talks on the weekend, I talked to people in Nova Scotia. I talked to people in Atlantic Canada. It's the same. And I have a house in Newfoundland. It's the same damn thing. They're doing it all across the country, and nobody wants this. There's absolutely nobody. Maybe some orange-haired, purple-haired cat ladies want this, but nobody in reality nobody with sense wants this. I don't think.
This can't be sustainable, because the whole process of this corruption, this skimming off the top from the bureaucratic class, it's based on a productive class, you and me, or whoever produces money to pay the taxes. Mm-hmm. Those people have either left already, in the process of leaving, or they will leave, or they'll just retire and they're like, you know what, I want a government job.
Yep. Well, I mean, and 1 in 5 people now in I think it's Canada, but it might just be Ontario, have a government job, and that's crazy. Like,
what I'm asking is, what happens when that turns into 1 in 1?
Yes. When everybody's on the government dole, well, then you got North Korea, right? Like, but that is the path we're on. And the funny thing is, they will keep devaluing the currency to keep the grift going. Like, they'll be okay. The powers that be will be just fine if your average Canadian box house, or what are they, modular homes, are selling for $2 million each. They'll be just fine with that. They'll be happy with that. You know why? More money to splash around. The math makes it more difficult for people to follow the money.
I just don't see how this is going to work unless you mention North Korea. They're going to nationalize the food supply and the energy and the water, and they're going to give food vouchers, and that's it. Like, then that's the purpose of government, is just maintain the farms.
Yeah, but we're on about a 15 to 20 year timeline for that. And the reason we're on a 15-year timeline is because it takes that long to train up the kids to accept that. And the last 20 years has been training the kids up to do this revolution that we're seeing with the trans nonsense and the anti-fascist people. The 2000 kids were targeted. 2005 kids were targeted to have this kind of, Mike Benz talks about the society, but people who are charged for that. You know what I'm saying? People who are ready for that and who are wanting to push for that. Talks about how concerts are used in when they're doing regime change to get people used to, like, the protests and things like that. But now we just have plain protests that are happening and people are joining it. But now they've already got the destabilization. They don't need foot soldiers anymore. They need people who are compliant and people who will take the digital ID. So they're going to give the kids a digital ID, and it doesn't matter if you and me take the digital ID, because when Sally, who's 10 right now, is 20, she's going to be given a digital ID before she graduates high school so that she can get a job. You know what I'm saying? That's where they're going to get us. That's what the plan is. They go after the kids, and they do it every time. The Pied Piper is a warning, and it's a persistent warning. They always go after the kids.
So 1945, the CIA is created. They just get mandate with infinite money to propagandize the people. You propagandize a generation for 20 years, you get 1965, and everything, it started going haywire in 1965.
Yep.
And every 20 years, you get another generation, and I think every generation gets worse and worse and worse. And it came to like a crescendo with COVID.
Yes. So I think there's a direct line. So in Russia, the Bolsheviks killed the kulaks, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Holodomor thing.
The Holodomor. Yeah, they starved them out. The Holodomor. Yep. And yeah, Andrew Scheer says it weird. I can't even say it the way he says it. I know, it's so weird. I say I know what a holodeck is, so I say Holodomor.
Farmers. They killed the farmers.
They killed the yeah. Right. And so, okay. So I'm going to paint you a picture that is a direct line between that group of people who committed the Holodomor and the people who are in charge right meow. Okay. So those people in Russia, whoever they are, that orchestrated that conflict and killed those kulaks, targeted then Germany. World War I and World War II happened. By the end of World War II, they had achieved their goals in Germany. They had smashed the old families. They had completely changed the society. It was no longer Germany before 1900 was kingdoms, like little fiefdoms. There was a whole bunch of kings everywhere, right? Like all over the place. And Germany was run through those kings, like they were like mayors and things like that. By the end of 1945, that had changed. The society structure had been changed. That had been removed. All of those people were dead or not in power. You understand? So they achieved their goals for Germany. The next goal is a one world government, new world order. They couldn't do that from Germany because of reasons, but fundamentally people would resist that. They found that out during the Second World War. So what did they do? They created supranational agencies and moved from Germany, from positions of power in Germany, into positions of power in the League of Nations, or becoming the United Nations, the WHO, and all of these supranational agencies. Now the supranational agency, all they had to do was wait. They were being funded by governments for peace. They oversaw the decommissioning of basically all the weapons of war for all of the nations, and that's all in preparation of a one world government. You can't fight back if you don't have have an army. What kind of army does Canada have? Non-existent. Yeah, we've got tampons in men's bathrooms and no sleeping bags. For sure, right? So we don't have any kind of army. We can't stand up to anybody to do anything, period. Like if China invaded us right now, we'd be effed. If America invaded us right now, we'd be effed completely. We would not be able to repel a force. And I say that with confidence. And so the supranational agencies lied to and took control of all of the West, I think. G7, G20, whatever it is. And they're just waiting. And now we're seeing the end game. And the end game is the same thing that they did to the kulaks. It's exactly, we're replaying the same thing. It's just modern, and we're the kulaks.
I like how you frame it, that dismantling armies is the national version of disarming people. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about like the British Empire, Cecil Rhodes, and all of that, everything that comes from Cecil Rhodes, Rhodes Scholarship. And
I've heard, so I would not be able to tell you all of the things about Cecil Rhodes right now, because I'm not very well, there are a lot of things that I have on the top of my head and I can just talk about. Cecil Rhodes and all this is not one of them. But people, when I explain what I just explained, people often tell me that it's similar. But
so like Cecil Rhodes, he did the Rhodes Scholarship to try to indoctrinate people to expand the British Empire. You had the Round Table movement.
Okay.
And then from there, you got the Council for Foreign Relations, like things like that. Matthew Arrett traces this stuff.
Okay. Yep.
I'm just not very good at memorizing this stuff, but I know exactly what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cecil Rhodes was a propagandist who was trying to move the ideology forward. Yeah. Yes.
The other one is the London School of Economics, which is apparently what Donald Trump is targeting right now. They're looking at anyone in the intel agency that's aligned with LSE, and they're just trying to get them out, because the London School of Economics is a left-wing socialist indoctrination center.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And the Crown doesn't work for the British people. The Crown, their name before 1930 was German. Like or maybe before the First World War, not the Second World War. It was a German name, and they had to change it to Windsor because they were like, "Ooh, this is pretty German. These Brits are gonna know." Like, yikes, right? But it was a German name, and but now Charles, and so there are a lot of people who say King Charles, Prince Charles was is a globalist asset. And I think that that's true. I think that there's truth to the idea that the Queen represented a period of time. And then once the Queen died, kind of all bets are off. We're into a new era now. And the King being a globalist opens the door to a whole bunch of different things, if that makes sense.
It does. I'll just add there was like a whole scandal. We know that, well, some of us know that the Nazis were funded by these people that you're talking about, like Prescott Bush and the king at the time he was supporting Nazism.
Edward. So there's
and then there was that thing where they had to get him to abdicate.
He abdicated to Bertie. So there's a movie called The King's Speech, and it's after Edward abdicates the throne and the son with a stutter, and I have a stutter, so near and dear to my heart, takes over, right? And he has to do his speech, but it kind of glosses over the whole idea that all through the 30s, well, I mean, 1938, Hitler was the man of the year, and the British Royals were super good friends with him. Like, he was in charge of Germany for a long time at that point in time. And there's lots and lots of pictures of the King of England, Edward, at the time. I think he was king, and painter mustache guy. And then they had to get rid of him, right? And so I was like, what? My mom said, like, oh yeah, they're all best. My mom's from England, so they're all best friends. I was like,
right now, this is why you and I are being suppressed.
Yes, yeah, for sure, man. I liked it. So I've read all sorts of historical books. I put books on my phone, and then I'll just listen to them while I like to do a walk or while I'm doing dishes or something like that. So I've read Winston Churchill's. It was a 2-book tome called World War II, and it was all about World War II, and it starts in 1929, and he has a meeting with that guy in 1936 just before Rhineland was taken, and all this sorts of stuff. But you know what it felt like? I think when I was reading it, it felt like a really, really high-end chocolate versus vanilla. Give me your hot take. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're supposed to be the smartest guy in the room, Winston Churchill. Like, he was seen as being like this, really, and it was a long and boring book. I read Patton's book, and it was interesting. And there are things that I'll tell you about both of those books off camera that I found very interesting, missing things from those books that I found very interesting. And I've read that other guy's book too from that era. And the insights came from Patton's book.
That shall remain nameless.
Yes, for now anyway. You read it and people lose their minds. Like Clyde Do Something wouldn't talk to me because he misunderstood what I was saying. I was like, listen, you should read history to get insight into history, because it'll give you a different perspective of what's going on if you know it.
I think you know why that individual got angry at you. World War II is America's current or origin story.
Sure. By design. Yeah. Well, you said that the propaganda started in 1945, right? At the FBI, CIA. Yes. And the other thing is, in the 1980s, I've heard this, Reagan came in, and I don't know if it was Reagan driving this or somebody else, maybe somebody else. And like, how sometimes you can come up with an idea, but it's somebody else's idea. Anyway, Reagan, oh shit, what was I talking about?
Were you talking about how he liberalized the news? Reagan came in, something about 1945.
No. So he wanted a wedge. He wanted a perfect wedge, and I think that this just named it. I think this just got this. They were doing this already, but this solidified it in some kind of document. But fundamentally, politics got too complicated. Quote, too complicated for your average American to understand. So basically the idea was, we're going to give them 2 teams, a red team and a blue team, and you're going to be told that, or you're going to go on one of these 2 teams, and we're just going to keep politics super simple, and it's just going to be signaling politics. Basically, you're on the red team, you're on the blue team, you're on the red team, you're on the blue team, and instead of giving people actually enough information to come to their own conclusions, the thought was, it's too complicated, they'll never come to their own conclusions, just tell them. So they got a group of people on one side to say this is the way it is, and a group of people on the other side to say this is the way it is, and they've just kept using that wedge for 40 years. And I fully believe that. I'm like, yeah, I could see it.
Really?
Yep, I could see it, because it gives them, if they're the ones coming up with the wedges, if they're the ones coming up with the story, then they can write the story. Right? And if something unexpected happens, well, it just becomes part of the story. And without that story, somebody else is going to write that story. Does that make sense?
I mean, feel it. Definitely. Like right now in Canada, for example, it's not two teams. You have your team. It's typically Liberal Conservative. It could be NDP. It could be PPC.
Yep.
And it's like your team can do no wrong. It's exactly like a football team. Like nobody asks like, should this team win? But they're no.
Yep.
We have to get behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter if their defense is shit. It doesn't matter if the goaltender is asleep. We have to get these guys in. We have to support them. It's like, well, they're not doing anything. They're on the field drinking right now. Like, yeah.
Still
like Pierre Poilievre is running the ball into his own end zone and they're going to score because of that run. What? Like, what are you talking about? Why do we have to support this crazy team? Yeah, I feel that too. It's a pretty wild
You
run.
mentioned Pierre Poilievre. Somebody told me that they instructed him to throw the election in April. And at the time, I was like, nah, he wouldn't do that. But now it seems like that's exactly what he's doing.
It seems like that's what he's doing. It sure does.
He's continuing to do it.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, and I agree with you. So I wonder, did you see Dan Bongino and Kash Patel?
When Dan looked like a deflated balloon?
And they both said Epstein definitely killed himself, like 100%. Yeah. So like, I feel like when you get into power, and whether that's, like, it doesn't matter which power, but the Dan Bonginos, all of these people of the world, you get into power and then you get walked through just how screwed everybody is. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, maybe I'll just throw this election. No problem. Like I'll just throw this election. Epstein killed himself and Mark Carney is the best guy to negotiate this. There we go. Like I feel like there is something somewhere, somebody's telling these people that like, you can't win. You've already lost. You might as well this is the best of it. This is all you're going to get. And they're like, okay, boss, like it seems that way.
I mean, this happened to me. You ran for the PPC, right?
Yep.
This kind of happened to me with the PPC where I came in and I saw some operational challenges and I kept escalating it to headquarters. I'm like, you got to fix this. You got to get ahead of this. You got to work on your messaging here. And then somebody told me to sit down and shut up. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll just phone it home.
Yep.
So that happened. But with Pierre Poilievre, I think they actually sat him down. They're like, listen, you got two options. You can either quit or this isn't your term. We'll let you in next election, but right now we need you to just phone it home.
Yeah. I don't know that it's that explicit, but maybe it might be. And I don't know. Yeah. It's difficult because I feel like even without that undercurrent of, I feel like there's a conversation we're not privy to, that something's weird. Political parties in and of themselves are vicious beasts that have allegiances that if you walked in, like if I walked in to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada tomorrow morning, would I be able to unwind the dairy cartel? Would I be able to say, no more, this is done? Or would I have 5 people coming up and saying, Mark, you can do this?
Let me ask you about this. The dairy cartel, the extent that the hardcore Conservative Party membership goes to, the backflips they do to justify the dairy cartel, what the hell's going on? Are they literally getting buckets of cash?
Yeah, man. Like milk has a massive advertising budget. And so like those dollars flow into the coffers of the CPC, right? And if you're a milk farmer, if you have quota, do you know how much quota costs? $30,000, $40,000 per one bit of quota. Maybe more. Like I think it was $40,000 like 10 years ago when I was looking at it. I don't know. So like if you're a big farm, one thing of quota is tens of thousands of dollars. And if you're a big farm, you're operating on lots of quota. You have all of this quota that it costs money and it's valuable, right? But it's kind of not vague, but intangible. Like you can't, this isn't quota, right?
Money the farmer pays per cow.
Yeah.
Just for people, if they don't know what the supply management is, it's a command economy. Like they're coming in and saying, this is the quota.
Yeah.
Indirectly, they're setting the price. Yes. And there's people out there that are advocating for this.
Yes. Well, they say that it stabilizes our food industry. They say that it stabilizes it to make sure that we get so much milk. And so like the argument for supply management is that it is a stabilizer for our food to make sure that we get at least this much milk. But we haven't needed that for 40 years, 50 years, something like that. New Zealand unwound. So, but the piece that's important, the reason that it's difficult is if you're a dairy farmer and you have $5 million wrapped up in quota, you don't want to lose that valuable quota, right? That quota is yours.
You've already paid into it.
You've already, yeah, you own it. That's your quota.
This is the argument that the cab drivers had against Uber, because they paid for their taxi licenses.
The London cab drivers. I met a London cab driver and I had not an argument with him, but I talked with him about this when Uber was relatively new, and he said, this is the worst thing that's ever happened and it shouldn't happen. And I was like, man, it's technology, whatever. And now my opinion has changed, but yeah, it is the same argument. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's the same argument. I kind of changed my opinion too, because I feel like Uber and DoorDash has completely, you see some like 45-year-old, 50-year-old man delivering your food. You're like, shouldn't you have a career?
Yeah. Do you know what it is for? Do you know why they came up with DoorDash and Uber? Do you know why they did that?
People just want to stay home and masturbate. I don't know.
No. It was to create an economy. It was to create jobs for migrants. It was to create a situation where you could have people who were coming into the country. And for Uber, like, you sign up through the app, right? And so you could sign up in like England. And then if you are in Canada, you can, like, when Uber first started, you could work, right? And it wasn't until 5 years later, it wasn't until like post 2020, when people were being raped and stuff in Uber cabs, that people were like, okay, well, we need to really know who is where and doing what. But the DoorDash, the delivery things, the delivery services, Uber Eats, all this stuff, it's meant to give jobs to migrants. That's the whole purpose of it. That's why they pushed it.
Well, another way to look at it is what you've been saying. It's just this trend towards globalization. Mm-hmm. Like, they want to make it, I always say they want to treat people like molecules, you know? It doesn't matter. Like, we have too much over here, we need to bring them over here. You know, like, people are fungible.
Yep. That's what they want. Yeah. And they wanted to be able to usurp or get around the local laws for payment, because Uber just paid you into the app. And then I guess you could export it out of the app. I'm not sure exactly how it was paid, but it was a way to usurp or get around the country's hiring laws, and they could do that. And like, there was so much money coming in. They didn't have any worry about money. They didn't have a worry about lawsuits. Like, they didn't care. And it was a globalist supported thing. So BlackRock, those guys are pushing money into it.
Yeah, but that ties into consolidation, which is what I wanted to talk about. When I came to Canada in the early 90s, we had the yellow pages. You open up the yellow pages, you go to P for pizza, and you got all of these 2-for-1 pizzas. So mostly immigrants that came in, but anybody could start their own pizza joint.
Yep.
And you can sell your pizza. Now, first of all, it's been consolidated into Domino's, so they've destroyed the competition. Mm-hmm. But there's so many regulations now that I don't think you could do that anymore. Yep. It's the consolidation and the increase in regulations, they move hand in hand, and they crush the small businesses.
Yes. Yep. And I think they don't want people running small businesses. They don't want people independent. They want people desperate, and they want people on the government dole. They want people who are relying on government handouts in order to eat, because people like that are easier to control.
Yeah. And I think COVID taught us that people who had a couple $100,000 in the bank, they could risk telling the truth.
Yeah.
But the ones that live paycheck to paycheck, you're going to be less likely to do that. And if you can't take 6 months off work to run a podcast like this, then you can't help your country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I didn't take 6 months off work to run my podcast. I didn't do that. But it's one of those things, like, I do this at the same time as I do my job. And it's still too much. Like, it's not too much. Like, I'm overwhelmed with it. I'm saying people who I just do it because I'm interested, because I look at things and I'm like, that's weird. And people just get not mad at me, but I could talk forever. Like, you and I have been talking for an hour. It feels like 5 minutes. I could talk forever about this kind of stuff, you know, like, and it's an outlet for me to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. And so I use it as a outlet for me, but I can see how people would see it as a job and needing to, like, you know, take time to actually, you know, put it together. But for me, it just jumps out. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I never looked at it as a job to put all this together and to put the show together and everything. It's more of a job to deal with censorship. Like, today, we have to wrap up as well, because if I don't wrap up, we'll just talk for another hour. Like, today, I went to upload my show on Streamable. Streamable is a private, closed video site where you can upload your video and then people can watch the video. So I tried to upload my video. Couldn't connect to the server. Wouldn't connect to the server. Wouldn't upload. Wouldn't do anything. Same on Substack today. Both of them I couldn't upload. Spotify I could. YouTube I could stream to. Anyway, there's certain things. Dealing with that is more of a job than actually doing my show. And I do all the technology on my show. I built the website, I post it, I edit it, I do everything. It's ridiculous. But none of it really seems like a job until the systems that I created stop working because of censorship. And now I'm scrambling. I got to figure out what I'm going to do because I don't know. So I'm going to get a different service and I'm going to see how long they let me upload for. It's been 3 years I've been using this service, and today, done.
I guess we can end it on I have a funny story. I went to register for Facebook. I just needed a Facebook account a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I started the registration and then it said, "You have been banned for life."
What? That's crazy. That's
I haven't even used it.
That's crazy.
It hasn't been activated.
Oh my gosh. I had Facebook from when it first started, and then I don't use it. I haven't used it in years. But I use sometimes the messaging, like sometimes people message me on the messaging app. So it's there, but I don't know. I post to it as well. Like I stream to Facebook, although not right now. Facebook is not one of the platforms we're streaming to right now. So maybe they've banned me today too. Anyway, it's one of those things, man. It is, the longer these things happen, the worse it's going to get. And I think I talked about this band, right? So this band is quality of life, and it started way up here. And as 2000, it was way up here, let's just say. And 1999, it was off the charts from where we are. And then 2000, it was here. And 2025, it's here. You know what I mean? And we stay in this band. Now, if we had come down here from 2000, people would be like, whoa, this is effing crazy. But because it took us 25 years, people have acclimatized. And that's what they're doing. They're dropping our standard of living in order to control us, because people with low standard of living, like Venezuela, Argentina, third world shitholes, are easier to control, and they won't rise up as readily. But we've got a long way to fall. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, they use interesting tricks too. They switched from debt to GDP ratio. They're using phrases like negative growth.
Yeah. Oh.
These people, at least they're creative.
Yeah, creative. They're crazy, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. Okay, we got to wrap it up. I got to go. So Peyman, any last words? Where can people find your show?
You can find me on X at Peyman Ascari 451, and on YouTube, Rumble, Substack. It's in lay terms.
Nice. Very in lay terms. Very cool. And for me, you can catch my stuff on Canada